So can you see my slides?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'll be brief today. The Dove Marine Laboratory is an amazing place. It was established in 1897, many years ago, and we held our centenary of the main building in 2008. So that was over 100 years of marine science. And you can just see the building in the background here. If I can use my laser color. I'm trying to get my laser pen working. It doesn't seem to be working for me. So laser pointer, hold on a second. Does that work? Can you see my laser pointer? So you can see the building there. It was constructed in 1908. It's named after a lady called Eleanor Dove, who was a wealthy merchant who provided funding for the building. So it's nothing to do with the bird. And interestingly, it was established in order to address a problem in the 1890s of overfishing. This was the herring industry on the coast of north coast of England, and the boats were taking a long time to fill their boats up with fish, and so this research station was established to address that problem. And since then, there's been a lot of research going on in all types of marine science. And you can see today, it's had some modern additions to it. And I would invite everybody, I won't do it now, but I would invite everybody to go to the website, just use Google and type in Dove Marine Laboratory, and you can see some really nice virtual visits. And I would agree wholeheartedly with Serena's point about COVID bringing people together by these virtual meetings and people being able to go to places virtually that they perhaps wouldn't have thought of going to before. So I want to just talk about I'm actually, sorry, I should clarify, I stepped down as director of the Dove Marine Laboratory in 2011. The current director of the Marine Laboratory is Dr. Jane Delaney, who sends her apologies and has been unable to, was unable to join this session today. So I'm going to talk on behalf of Jane and other PIs at the Dove Marine Laboratory. And again, to underline Dr. Poteen's point, it's really essential that you have active PIs actually on site at the Marine Laboratory to breathe life into the building and make it work properly. So I would completely agree with that. So I want to talk about research at the Dove today. We're looking at mapping and modeling of marine ecosystems, ecosystem services, identifying biological and socio-economic drivers of marine systems change. We're looking at novel technologies for mapping of marine structures, 3D photogrammetry, large-scale drones for large-scale intertidal mapping, a new analysis for change detection and looking at undersea habitats. Also, a lot of socio-economic studies in marine science goes on, headed by Jane Delaney, looking at societal barriers to engagement and using, again, the visit of school children was mentioned. We do a lot of school visits at the Dove Marine Laboratory today. And we're looking at societal barriers to engagement with science. Why do some areas of society not have strong engagement with science? And we use the marine environment as a really great gateway to engaging youngsters in science. We also have the Dove Time series, a long-term monitoring series of plankton in the North Sea. And that's absolutely fascinating. We're beginning to do really exciting things, showing changes that have taken place on the decadal timescales. And we also do work on marine heat waves, kelp forest ecology, and ecological engineering. So this is work of Dr. Claire Fitzsimmons. Claire is a lecturer in marine science here at Newcastle, and she does seabed mapping with acoustic data, underwater autonomous vehicles, and detection of changes on the sea floor, habitat mapping, and measuring of beach width and other aspects of marine science. Really exciting stuff, bringing the physical sciences into a lot of what's done at the Dove today. Looking at fishing effort, vessel sightings, looking at wrecks and ships that have sunk, and also mapping species movements using acoustic telemetry, for example. I mentioned the Dove Time Series. This is a planktonic and benthic monitoring time series, which was started way back in 1969. We're looking at health monitoring of the North Sea. We have quarterly benthic macrofaunal monitoring, and we have really fantastic Dove Time series, and we're starting to pick up changes, data which demonstrate real changes in temperatures, and also interestingly the discovery of microplastics, and we started using metabarcoding and so on and so forth. So the Dove Time series is a really important and expensive, I should add, data time series, which everybody at the Dove Marine Laboratory is keeping going even today. So this is a project called Engaging Environments, which Jane Delaney heads up. It's a 3-year UK initiative, £1.3 million, and it's really to look at communities and understand their stake in the environment, and connect people with environmental issues, build capacity in the research community of our Environmental Research Council in the UK, and carry out citizen-led science and really engage people in collecting data and getting them interested in science through marine science. And that's a really important way to impact what the general public feel about marine laboratories. And also, if you're starting to impact what the general public feel about them, then you start to impact what they as voters feel. And of course, politicians, if the politicians don't care much about marine stations, they do care about big issues that affect voters. So that's a really important aspect of growing and building capacity in marine science in the UK. So it's a fantastic project. And if you want to know any more about that, do please contact Jane. It's looking at things like racial and gender inequalities in accessing science. And it's really, really a great story. And this is work by Professor Pip Moore, who's looking at climate change ecology and working on impact of heat changes and gradual warming, thermal tolerance in algae, ocean acidification, and looking at novel metrics of climate change. And Pip also does work on ecological engineering and kelp forest ecology. And you can see here, for example, artificial rock pools being drilled into stone so that you can then understand the effect of an artificial environment on marine biodiversity. So Pip does some really fantastic scientific research as well. And I wanted just to flag up a few other areas. We also have a Centre for Marine Plastics Research growing at Newcastle University, and very much with a centre of activity at the Dove Marine Laboratory, headed up by Dr. Heather Sugden. And this really builds on some work done by Professor Richard Thompson, who's a professor currently at the University of Plymouth, and is known, I think, worldwide today as the father of microplastics research, and was one of the first people decades ago to start looking at marine litter and plastic litter in the sea. And Richard did a lot of his important research whilst a student and a young scientist working at the Dove Marine Laboratory. And I think it provides an important message. A lot of the critical scientific issues of today, including marine pollution, climate change, coral disease, and degradation of the marine environment, can only be effectively addressed by a well-funded and well-founded marine station. And it's, it's very difficult to keep research stations open. Quite a few research stations have been closed in the UK. I'm really pleased that we've had the support of the senior management of the University at Newcastle to keep the marine station open, not only to keep it open, but to invest in it. And it's really heartwarming to see marine stations around the world also being invested in, and people working hard on the different problems that marine stations face, which we all know about. Before I came to Newcastle University in 2005, quite a few years ago now, I was very puzzled by the importance of tropical marine biology at Newcastle University. And I thought, well, why is there a center of excellence in tropical marine biology in Newcastle, one of the coldest places in the UK? And that's a really fantastic story, which goes back many, many decades. And scientists such as Nick Palunin and Barbara Brown, who really started coral research at Newcastle and led it, and made it into a really international center for tropical marine biology, attracting students from around the world. Nick retired just a few months ago, actually, but his, the heritage of Nick and Barbara's work remains, and we now have a new generation of scientists with interests and expertise in coral, in particular James Guest and John Bithell, for those of you that may know John. And I myself am interested now also from a microbiological perspective in coral disease, and how do bacteria infect coral and cause lesions and degrade coral. And that's a wonderful scientific story, because it's all about mucus and the interaction between bacteria and mucus. And that, of course, is a model for diseases of, for example, gut diseases in humans, irritable bowel disease, where you have problems associated with mucus breakdown. And so you can actually carry out a lot of really important basic marine biology, which has implications for biomedical model systems as well. And so just to kind of finish up, I'm also really excited to flag up, I guess, if people weren't aware of it, that Newcastle University has its own campus in Singapore. We have a building and we have folk there. We do teaching in Singapore, and increasingly we are investing more in carrying out collaborative research in Singapore. A couple of years ago, before the pandemic, I was lucky enough to visit Serena at St. John's Island Marine Laboratory. I'm really keen to come back now and see the fruits of all that construction work that was going on at the time. And I think I would like to commend what the folks at the St. John's Island Marine Laboratory have been able to do into being able to galvanize support from the two major universities in Singapore, and really catalyze some major investment in that laboratory. And it's I think that's something that we could all discuss carefully, is how to engage senior managers, politicians, local mayors and funders to appreciate and understand the importance of marine laboratories in the first instance, and then of course to do something about it and help fund their stability. So that's a really important way, I think, in which marine laboratories can connect and help each other. We also, Newcastle University also opened a medical school campus in Johor in Malaysia, and we're now expanding that campus to carry out additional types of research into, for example, water purity, and so on and so forth. So we've got high hopes of increasing the amount of research collaboration, teaching collaboration, fieldwork collaboration that we do in both Singapore and Malaysia in the years to come. And so I think, I just want to underline the essential requirement of coming together and, using Zoom meetings for all of us to come instantly together from UK, from Lombok, Singapore, Malaysia. I mean, it's a fantastic tool that we have to talk about these challenges and share best practices and share success stories as well. People that fund operations are generally risk averse. They don't like funding things which are failing. They like to fund things which are successful. So it's a really important thing to share success stories of these marine labs that we all work in. So thank you very much for your attention. It's been a very quick whistle-stop tour of the Dove Marine Laboratory. And I'd be very pleased to answer questions and to talk with folk offline. And as I say, pass on my best wishes from the head of the Marine Lab, Jane Delaney, and colleagues that weren't able to join this morning. And thanks very much for the invitation.